NHL regular season recap, night 98, 12 games today, and we got started really early with a 12:30 start between the Sabres and Tampa Bay Lightning, and this was a really tough game for the Sabres. They outshoot the Lightning 27-16 and lose 3-1. UPL gets outgoalied by Jonas Johansson. Yes, outgoalied by Jonas Johansson. I said that actually happened in an NHL game. Nick Paul and Tyler Mott both scoring in the first period. In the second, Dylan Cousins makes it a one-goal game. In the third period, Calvin DeHaan with the empty netter. Just a tough loss for the Sabres, man. Again, I don't think they're getting back into the playoff picture, really, but this is a game that stings big time. You outshoot them almost 2-1. You limit them to only 15 shots on your goalie and still not able to find the victory. I know it's the Tampa Bay Lightning, but it's not even like their big guys were the ones scoring. Again, Nick Paul, Tyler Mott, and Calvin DeHaan. So a tough loss for the Sabres. They got to kind of take this one on the chin. Nonetheless, a 3-1 victory for Tampa Bay, who's climbing back up the Atlantic Division. The Avs visiting Philadelphia, and this one was surprisingly entertaining considering the way the game started. In the first, it's O'Connor and Rantanen making it 2-0 Avs after one. In the second, McKinnon scores to make it 3-0. Farabee brings it to 3-1. Logan O'Connor scores his second of the game. Konechny scores to bring it to 4-2, and then Nate McKinnon scores just under 3 minutes to play in the second, so it's 5-2 headed to the third. This game looks to be over, right? But in the first 8 minutes, it's Ty Forrester and Cam Atkinson both scoring to make it a 5-4 game, and it's tight again. All of a sudden, we have a one-goal game with plenty of time to go, but the Avs get the next one. Mikko Rantanen on the power play with about 7.5 to play makes it 6-4, and then Logan O'Connor completes the hat-trick effort, making it a 7-4 final. He, of course, had a very good game. Nate McKinnon also very strong. 2 goals, 2 assists in this one. It's another one where the goalie is just not good enough. Carter Hart gives up 5 on 15. Sam Harrison gives up 1 on 9. Philly out shooting Colorado 40-25 in this one, but once again, just not quite enough from the goaltenders to make it winnable. It's a 7-4 victory for Colorado, who continues to just roll over everybody. The Coyotes hosting the Preds, and the Preds were probably the better of the two teams in this one, but really strong games from Connor Ingram, Clayton Keller, and Sean Durzi power the Yotes to victory. They get outshot 32-24, but win by a final score of 3-2. Clayton Keller scoring once in the first and again in the second to make it 2-0 early. Roman Josi cuts the lead to 1 a few minutes after Keller's second goal, but later in the second, Michael Carcone makes it 3-1. There's no further goals until about 1:15 to play in the third, where Tommy Novak does make it 3-2, but too little too late at that point. The Preds lose this one in a pretty, unfortunate fashion. You'd like to get one more considering how well they played, but just not quite able to do so. It's a big win for the Coyotes, who are making up some ground on them and looking to stay alive in this playoff race out west. The Senators hosting the Jets in the first of 3 all-Canadian matchups tonight. Mason Appleton scores first in the second period, just 5.5 to play in that frame. Parker Kelly ties it about 5 minutes into the third, and then Nick Ehlers in the overtime with the game-winning goal. A pretty good performance from both goalies, which is nice to say considering it was Jonas Korpisalo in net for the Sens. Hellebuck, though, 34 for 35, just the better of the two. Korpisalo, 27 of 29. You can't blame this performance on him, but of course, you need 1 or 2 more goals, ideally, if you are a Senators fan. For the Jets, though, they continue their pretty strong stretch of play. They maintain their first spot in the Central Division, still all things firing properly for them. For the Sens, again, they're in a similar situation to Buffalo. The season's kind of lost, I think, at this point, but good to see them compete in a game against one of the top teams in the league. The Boston Bruins taking on the Montreal Canadiens in this historic rivalry, and this game was something. 9 goals for the Bruins, 4 for the Canadiens, a 9-4 victory for Boston. Sam Montembeault gives up 8 on 30. Caden Primo gives up 1 on the last 6 shots of the game. He only played 10 minutes, and Linus Ullmark gives up 4 on 21. None of the goalies were good in this game, period. None of them. Not going to go through all the goals because there's a million, but Dan Heinen had a hat trick. David Pastrnak, goal and an assist. Charlie Coyle, a goal and an assist. It was a wild game. One of the stranger ones between these two teams that we've seen in a long, long time. Nonetheless, the Bruins maintain the expected outcome, just maybe not by the margin we thought. 9-4 is the final here in favor of Boston. The Canucks hosting the Leafs in those beautiful, beautiful skate jerseys, and they get the job done in this one. It was not easy, though. They score 3 in the first, 2 from Niels Oglander, 1 from Connor Garland, 3-0 after 1. In the second, though, 3 consecutive from the Leafs ties it, and some of these from Demko were just not good goals, getting beat on the glove side, clean twice by William Nylander. Maybe the first one there was a screen, but it was from distance. He should probably have it either way. The second one for sure needed a save there. Nonetheless, suddenly we're tied. Connor Garland scores again to make it 4-3. Marner makes it 4-4 shorthanded in the third. And then Miller and Pettersson both score to save the day, making it a 6-4 final for Vancouver. Martin Jones is not good in this one either. He gives up 6 on just 21 shots. Meanwhile, Thatcher Demko, despite some of his struggles in the second period, 42 for 46, and ended up being a pretty strong performance altogether for him. Despite those 2 goals, it's a big victory for the Canucks. They maintain first in the Pacific and the league, while the Leafs continue to pitter a little bit. The Stars visiting New Jersey, and this one was a mopping by the Dallas Stars. They win by a final score of 6-2. They score the first 6 goals in the game. It wasn't until just over 6 minutes to play in the third that Jesper Bratt finally breaks the shutout bid for Scott Wedgwood. Tyler Toffoli adds a second one there to make it that 6-2 final. Nico Daws, not his best game. In fact, probably the worst he's had so far this year, but hard to blame this loss entirely on him. 6 goals against on 36 shots and .833 save percentage. Scott Wedgwood, 29 for 31, a .935 save percentage. His record against New Jersey since leaving is wild, by the way. Roope Hintz, 2 goals. Wyatt Johnston, a goal and an assist. One of them was a nasty toe drag finish from him. And then the comments from Lindy Ruff after the game claiming that the Devils played a great game. That, I don't know, the coach seems lost to me. I don't know what part of this is a great game. Nonetheless, it's a great game for Dallas. A 6-2 victory for them. They maintain third in the Central behind both Colorado and Winnipeg. St. Louis facing off against Washington, and this was a typical Washington Capitals game. They only get 18 shots. They don't score any. The Blues score 3 on 29 on poor Charlie Lindgren, who's just helpless back there, not getting any goal support. A goal in each period, one from Parego in the first shorthanded, a second from Braden Shen in the second, and then Jake Neighbors on the power play in the third. There's nothing else to talk about this game, man. The Capitals, despite being 4th in the Metro, just slow, unable to generate offense. The line combinations in this game were just, I don't even know, like word vomit on paper. It's a big win for the Blues. They're still in it, in the mix, in the Central and out West in general, but an ugly game from Washington, one they needed badly because the Metro is just a mosh pit of teams within like 6 points of each other than the Rangers. So a wild game, or a wild loss to have so easily for Washington. Nonetheless, it's a 3-0 victory for the Blues. Sorry, Blues fans, for seeming down about this one. I'm a Caps fan, and this loss stunk. The Golden Knights hosting the Penguins in what ended up being a pretty entertaining game. No goals in the first. In the second, Ryan Graves and Jake Gensel with his 20th of the year make it 2-0 after 2. In the third, though, Vegas brings it all the way back. Jonathan Marchessault, Pavel Dorofeyev, and Brennan Brisson with the game winner on his first career NHL goal. That's a pretty cool moment for him. It's a 3-2 victory for the Golden Knights, who have seemingly flipped the momentum. 2 wins in their last 2 games and have looked pretty good in both of them. Tristan Jarry, 26 for 29 and an .897 save percentage, Logan Thompson, 23 of 25 for a .920. He's been pretty good the last few games as well. It's a tough loss for the Penguins. They're in a similar situation to the Caps, the Islanders, the Devils, all fighting it out for that last spot or 2 in the Metro. Their record's not bad. The points are right there along with the rest of the teams. Just needed this one in a pretty bad way. You would have liked to at least see overtime. Not the case tonight, though. 3-2 in regulation for Vegas. The Sharks taking on the Ducks in another battle for Macklin Celebrini. Not quite at the level of Chicago and San Jose, but pretty damn close. The Sharks win this one by a final score of 5-3. They are still just behind the Ducks in the standings, though, so could be worse. No scoring in the first. In the second, we have Vlasic, Lacombe, Burrows, Zetterlund, and Henrique all scoring, so 3-2 Sharks after 2. In the third, Jan Ruda, Mason McTavish, and an empty net goal, from Tomas Hertl. The return of Logan Couture in this game as well. He does not score, but does notch a point in his first game back. John Gibson, not great, 14 of 18, a .778 save percentage for him. Blackwood, pretty good in this one, 31 of 34, holding the win together for the Sharks, generally speaking, considering they only got 18 shots plus the empty netter. Nonetheless, a 5-3 victory for San Jose. The Battle of Alberta, the Calgary Flames taking on the Edmonton Oilers, and this one was a surprisingly low-scoring game considering the history of this matchup over the last couple years. Just a 3-1 final in favor of the Oilers. Ryan McLeod gets things kicked off for us in the first period with about 5 minutes to play. In the second, Mackenzie Weegar scores just 2 minutes in to make it 1-1. No goals again until the third period, where Sam Gagner scores his 5th of the year, about a minute and a half in to make it 2-1. Zach Hyman with the empty netter with about 30 seconds to play. Both goalies surprisingly pretty good in this one. Not so much a surprise from Stuart Skinner. He's been fantastic lately. 26 of 27 in the victory for him. Dan Vladar, though, who struggled earlier in the season, a .935 tonight. 29 of 31 for him. Can't blame this on him whatsoever. A pretty entertaining game despite no points for Draisaitl, McDavid, Kadri, like just all the big guys not really showing up tonight, but still a pretty entertaining game. 3-1 for Edmonton. 12th and final game of the night, the Kings hosting the New York Rangers in what earlier in the year would have been a pretty anticipated matchup. This time of year, not so much. Both of these teams have been struggling just a bit of late, but the Kings get the victory in this one in a relatively surprisingly low-scoring game. Jonathan Quick and Dave Riddick, the two goalies, not exactly two guys that scream hit the under, but that was exactly what happened tonight. Kevin Fiala in the first with about 30 seconds to go. In the second, Chris Kreider scores with just over 5 minutes to go, and Quinn Byfield scores with just under 2 to go, making it 2-1, LA, and that's where the score stuck in the third. John Quick, 24 of 26, Dave Riddick, 22 of 23. Relatively low shots, which of course attributes to the low-scoring game, but nonetheless a victory for the Kings that they needed pretty badly. That's it for NHL regular season recap night 98. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. I believe 6 games on a Sunday, which is a bit more than usual. We'll take it. Talk to you guys then.